So what we're doing today is we're going to be replacing the glass within the frame of the window. I know by the email you might have thought maybe we were putting one on the car, but that's not what we're actually doing this time. And I guess Bill can tell you why we're doing this.
Well, it's a long story. My 1980 MGB, about 2 years ago, I took the windshield out, I set it to one side, and then like 6 months later, there was noticed a crack in the screen. So I came to Rob, and we looked through his pile of spare windshields, and we found this one. And obviously didn't have a crack in it at that time. So I installed this one in my car. And then I did a paint job on the car and everything, and reinstalled the windshield. And unbeknownst to me, this windshield was from like pre-1976.
You know, whereas my original one was in 1980. So I wanted the sun visors. So I ordered a set of 1980 sun visors from Rob. And then I couldn't install them because the mounting brackets are different on the earlier windshield to the 1980. Just slightly,
yeah, there's a slight length difference. When we pulled the windshield out, we really didn't. He was really looking at just the glass in the frame, wasn't looking at these brackets. And I forgot at the time we were in the middle of moving that there are two different brackets, and I didn't know which one he had gotten. But yeah.
So then I was installing the sun visors, and I had to use screws instead of the rivets because the glass was in place. You can only really use screws, I think.
Well, let me preface this by saying these have drive-in rivets, and I think there are 3/16 rivets. And when you go to drill those out, you have to be very, very precise and use exactly the right size drill bit if you plan on putting those rivets back in, the same style rivets. Because if you even use like a 64th larger drill bit, they're not going to bite. You're not going to hold them in place because, you know, when you drill, it tends to always be slightly bigger anyway when you hand drill things like that. And the glass is very close to the rivets, so if you go oversized, like with screws with big that bite really good, you can contact the glass if you're not careful. That's exactly what he did, and he broke the windshield.
On the last screw, these two were fine. The M1 was fine, and that very last one.
Yeah. Now at one time I did find pop rivets that I was able to get one time that fit. If you go slightly oversized, they were like a 9/64 or something like that. I'd have to do the math to remember what it is. But they were 1/64 larger than 3/16, and they were actually intended for repairing semi-trailers. When you have loose rivets in semi-trailers, so it's a slight oversize, and they work really good in here. But they can be a little difficult to find. You're not going to go to Home Depot or any place like that to find them. You've got to go to an actual hardware or rivet supply place to find them. And when I bought those, they were discontinued, and I bought everything they had, which was like a half a pound of them. And I don't even know if I have any of those left anymore. But yeah, you have to be very careful when messing around with these. Just like the corners of these, when you take the screws out of the corners of them, you got to put the right length screws back in. If you go even just a little bit too long, they can contact the glass and break the glass. And it's not just whether they contact the glass here. It's once you bolt it on the car and you're using the car and flexing in the car and in the windshield, they can hit the glass and break. We actually have a big problem with the aftermarket there for a while. I don't know if they're still having a problem with them, but for a while there, the aftermarket windshields, they were having problems with them cracking once they're installed on the car because they were just, I guess, a fuzz oversize. and then they would contact the corners of the screws in use when you start driving it. So, plus I think the shape of them was just a hair off, and they were hard to install, and many people would break them installing them just in the frame. But then if they were successful at installing on the frame, put it on the car, everything's good, go drive it, and then it breaks while they're driving. So
Is that modified glass? Is that better for that?
yes. Now, when you buy the new glass, the OE glass, like Moss has two of them. They have a standard one and they have modified corners. It is definitely preferable to buy the one with the modified corners because it's got recesses, extra recesses right around where all the screws are to prevent that possibility of that flex cracking them. Now, unfortunately, we thought the glass that we're using today was purchased from another club member, where he had actually picked it up brand new from one of the PPG warehouses, which PPG is actually the maker of the original, is the current manufacturer of the original glass. They have that with all the right markings and everything. Pilkington glass. PPG owns Pilkington.
Right.
And he had bought two of those windshields for both of his cars, a B and a C. Well, the C got flooded in the hurricane and has been salvaged, so he didn't need the glass anymore, and he sold it to Bill. Unfortunately, though, I thought he had bought recessed corner glass, but now that I've unpackaged it, it's not recessed corners, so we got to be a little more careful. And there is a major price difference between the Pilkington glass and the aftermarket. This stuff is what, where was this at, 439, 469, something like that, where the aftermarket's 2 something. But from all the problems that I've heard about the aftermarket glass, you actually most likely save money by buying the OE stuff in the long run, because it's so, at least last I heard, it was so common to break the aftermarket stuff. Most people end up buying 2 of them. So might as well just buy one of these and get the modified corners, not have any problems, and not do it again. Now, in this case, we had actually already taken this thing partway apart because he had actually drilled these things out a little too big. This wasn't holding, and he brought it over here. We took this apart, and I welded this hole back up so I could re-drill it. So we've cheated, and it's already partway apart. But the basic process is going to take all these screws out, and that's actually the hardest part usually, because these screws can get stuck. They get rusted in there, they won't come out, they'll break off, and actually part of the reason why he started taking us apart before was to make sure we weren't going to break everything off and be sitting here not being able to put it back together.
But we're not going to take these bottom ones out, right?
No, and in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to actually cheat a little bit. We're going to take the top rail off, and we're going to spread this a little bit and get the glass out. Put the new glass in, so we'll never actually take the bottom apart. Now, you really can't do this on the car, because with this bolted into the car, it won't allow you to spread it. I guess we need to start out by taking, oh, it's already loose. It's already loose, but we got to take this out first, because you can't spread this apart without taking that out. And like I said, this is usually the hardest part. And oftentimes what ends up happening is these get stuck in here, they break off, and you end up having to get all new corner brackets and everything, which means you take out the seal here, then you got to unrivet the strip from the seal, and everything to do all that. You'll probably never Unless you got a super clean car, you'll probably never get these screws out anywhere near as easy as I am right now.
Question for everybody, is all these screws, there's different sizes, correct?
There are different size screws.
And you have to pay attention to.
Yes, and actually I think there's supposed to be 2 of each. Where's the other screws that go on the other side? Oh, in that frame.
I don't know.
You lost them?
Probably.
Take like 8 marker, different colors and mark each screw.
Yeah.
Know what one went where.
I know that the short one's got to go to the inside and the long one's to the outside. But yeah, it would be helpful to do that if you've never done this before. I'm gonna pull this out of here. Now, they did actually put like a gummy sealer here from the factory to seal this stuff. What'd you do with the bracket that goes in there too?
What bracket?
The little bracket that was on that side.
It's over in this one.
That's why I bought 2.
Somehow I knew him taking it apart in the beforehand was going to bite us. And you notice these brackets are got a slight curve in them, so there is actually a left and a right to these because the spacing is different. I have not taken one of these windshields apart for probably 4 or 5 years, and the last time I did it this way, probably 15 years ago. But yeah, you're just going to pull this. See, you can flex the brackets just enough here. To slide the glass right out.
That's a ton of work.
In general, if you call a glass company and say, hey, I need my windshield replaced on my MGB, and they say, sure, we can do that, and they give you a very reasonable price, I guarantee you they've never done one before. And they have no clue what they're getting into. Because a proper windshield replacement is a expensive ordeal on these things because they are a pain in the butt. This is the easy part. It's getting it on and off the car that's the hard part, especially if you put a new seal on. Now in his case, he's not replacing the seal because this is in good shape, good enough shape for what he wants, and about 20 times easier than putting a new seal in. Because the new seals are a big ordeal. And you cannot...
You slide it in.
You can slide it in, but I think it takes like 3 people.
Yeah, it takes at least 2 people to slide a new one in and pull new seal into here, and lots of lubrication. And it helps actually to get in here with a Dremel and kind of clear out one of these holes slightly and make it slightly bigger so you can actually get it in there. Yeah, because there's holes already in there if we get the screws in there. You can enlarge those a little bit and make them more square-ish and kind of grind it, ramp so it slides in. The new glass, when you pick it up at the warehouse yourself, this is how they give it to you. You buy it from Moss. It comes in a huge box. It's almost as big as this table and with a bunch of foam around it. And that's part of the reason why they cost so much money, because the packaging is so expensive for them. And it turns out this is one of the tinted, unmodified corner glasses. So normally right in here, you'd have a little bit of a recess right here, all the way around this corner here, and all the way around this corner here. That keeps the potential of any of those screws from ever contacting glass and during flexing. And it's like $30 more, well worth it. That's the one you want to get. But these have all the correct markings, the triplex laminated. Actually, it says triplex instead of Pilkington on, but that still says the triple X and all that stuff. Now, the way I was always taught with glass is it seems a bit wrong, but if just to set it curve up, not curve down. Feels wrong to do it that way, but when I was a kid and my dad would buy windshields, used windshields out of the junkyard, he would always put them in the back of the truck on a tire like this, and he never broke one. My rags keep disappearing lately and get put away. This windshield's actually been sitting for a couple of years. So it's a little dusty. So we got a new seal here. So you got to look at the seal and you got to figure out, which is the top, which is the bottom. Obviously, this is one of these are the corners here. Because they're not really shaped like pre-formed with corners necessarily. But they do have little cuts here that they put in right there, right at the corners. And that's kind of getting the indication of where to start at. The windshield seals, especially like on the GT, will always seem too big. It's actually made big. You see it all the time online. People are like, oh, it's too big, it won't fit. And they're complaining online. They're made that way for a reason. Because they shrink. So when you put them in there, they're a little bit on the big side. They're tight to get in there, but they will shrink. If they're perfectly the exact size they need to be, they can shrink and they could actually get a leak later on. But they're intentionally made slightly too big. You see it all the time. People complain about the BGTs. It won't fit. Mine's too big. It's got like 2 extra inches. Yeah, it's supposed to be there. So we got to try to get it to this. The cutouts are roughly where we want them, all the way around. Of course, you got to. Yeah.
Heat that up a little bit?
Because actually, I thought there was a seam in these things. And you can start this seam right here in the middle,
Okay.
right above the XXX. Most people, when they do their windshields, will go just find a whole clean frame assembly and just put it on so they don't have to deal with any of the other stuff.
Which is what I did.
Which is what he tried to do.
It was successful too.
Initially. Now, some people would prefer to put some kind of lubrication on here. I have been perfectly successful at doing this in the past without lubrication. Because this actually slides in pretty decent. It's not like nearly as tight of a squeeze as, say, like the GT glass, where there's no way it's going in without lube. I'll make sure there's no bits of crap in there from the old seal. And all this stuff that's in here is actually in there. They put stuff in here to seal around the screws and all that stuff from the factory. Of course, these days, no one's driving these in the rain anymore, unless they get caught out. It's not quite as important to make sure every little thing gets sealed, depending on how you're using the car. It may not leak around the screws, but it's going to leak right around here and get in anyway.
You don't put any seal at all in it. The rubber itself.
No, the rubber itself is what seals this. Wanna it's the initial getting in there initially is the biggest thing. Get one corner lined up here, okay. I think no matter how you show people how to do it, when they do it on their own, it's, you know. My job is to make it look easy. I don't always, but this really needed to be, there we go. My job is to make it look easy. That way I can justify charging what I charge.
I'd slice it and say 7 hours later, 9 hours later.
Then when you say, I'm not charging you necessarily for the time. I'm charging you for the experience.
How much would you charge, Bill, with your experience?
A lot. Priceless. I mean, after this experience, they may not want to help anybody do theirs. So now we got to work this up. And you can use these nylon tools to help, you know, get it. I think it's actually a little bit easier to do on sawhorses than it is on this table. But we thought the table was better set up here for the doing it in a tech session. It all and this may not necessarily pull all the way up and stay in place until you get the rod in there and pull to keep tension on it. That's what the rod's there for. And you got to work these in. This thing's still not quite going all the way down as far as I want it to. Maybe a little lube wouldn't have been a bad thing. I've never had a problem with them before. And then there'll become a point here where we're going to run running ratchet straps around it and everything else which I'll probably end up putting a ratchet strap across. The hard part is you need to get a ratchet strap here to pull these in, but it wants to slide off the end. So depend how you do it partly is going to depend on how nice it is. And how worried you are about keeping the finish perfect and all that stuff. Yeah, because without the seal here, you can put a clamp here. Like you said, put a block of wood, something like that, keep it from making any marks. I was wondering why he was bringing a spare. I just, if I'd known that's why he was bringing the spare, I would have.
Are they handed?
Yes, they are. Which this is the correct side we need.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. I'll do that.
This one falls longer.
Yeah.
That one there, it's longer.
These are the short. These are the ones that go inside, and these go to the outside. Actually, we can't put that one on yet because that's going to go here. Part of the reason why they're longer is you're going actually through the frame and through the upper rail to get underneath here. Where here you're just going through the upper rail.
That's where they always make the mistake, put the longer ones in and go chink.
Yep.
Those get stripped.
Let me get this thing lined up here. Try to get one screw in here.
Not coming out. Hold that other side. Coming out.
This thing to kind of hold together. See if I can get this to pick up that.
That's what that looks like.
There it goes. Of course, I always said on my channel, I'm not going to, doctor it up and make it look like I'm doing everything exactly perfectly.
Right.
You know?
Always good to show reality.
Yeah. That's why I prefer to have it on a set of horses, because it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But the horses I have are pretty crappy.
Yeah.
And they are starting to get really unstable. Why am I? And well, I don't use those that much. The ones without the hooks.
Oh yeah.
I don't use those that much. And because they're not useful for that many things. And then I end up kind of like not worrying about them until I get to something like this. Then I'm like, crap, where are those things at?
Oh, the double loop ones.
The ones that have no hooks. You just hook back, just look back onto itself.
I use them for my woodworking.
Yeah.
Without any hooks.
Inch your way there, Robbie. You don't crank it.
Well, I find WD-40 works great putting like the GT seals and stuff in, but you want to put something that's not going to damage the seal.
Right.
And like this ain't going to damage the seal. And it's a lubricant. Except this thing's a piece of crap. My like that.
Guess I shouldn't have said that.
Put some on the other side. Blocks.
We might actually want to. Maybe I should find something else. It's like, geez. Like, can I have a bottle of anything that actually squirts around here? Last time I did this, I never lubricated it, and I got it together no problem.
Yeah, but you're filming this and you got witnesses, so it's gonna fight. It's gotta be annoying.
Pressure's on.
You were
Yeah.
strong about that.
Yeah, maybe I was. Maybe I was thinking clearer too.
Probably wasn't sober either. I know I felt. Yeah. Yeah.
It's starting to go now. Aren't you supposed to be talking in metric?
16 millimeters.
That way.
Is that actually what's used to pull the window together a little bit?
It keeps the window together.
Done that restoration.
Goes everywhere but where you want it.
Uh-oh, big hammer.
You can use this. You'd be surprised what you can do if you know what the limits are.
Yeah, it's got to close all the way up.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah, it's got a touch there.
Shimmy.
You don't want to just crank on it because you could pull it together, bend the windshield, and crack it. Closing up. Any more?
Too much.
Hmm?
It's kind of holding right there at that
Yeah,
quarter inch.
because everything's got to kind of slide here, you know. I had nowhere near this much problem the last two I did.
Of course, like I said, you're filming this.
Let me see somewhere here.
Bottom seal doesn't.
Yeah, we're not in all the way down here. This is starting to pull. And this is going to be a problem here. If I don't get this to, this is tucking under here. Yeah, that's why it's not coming together right there. That's why it's not coming together right there. Well, part of it at least. It's at least part of the problem. I have a feeling where I'm not going to edit anything that I'm going to think is worth putting up on YouTube. This one I don't think is going to make it. See, this corner here is just not at all.
Yeah, it's like the whole windshield needs to come that way.
It's just not at all doing what we want to do. Right here. One thing I was worried about is this windshield's been sitting just long enough. Did it kind of go a little bit, you know?
Right. Always fun to try and get it.
Okay, so we want to stay on top of the glass right now. Stay up on the glass right now and not tuck under the glass. I've never had one do that before. But this one is definitely doing that.
Definitely fighting.
6,
But you said this was going to be easy.
7.
This is the easy part. Usually, actually, I've never fought one this much.
Oh, we wasn't filming this.
I've never had one take this long. Of course, I haven't done it that many times yet, but yeah.
It's starting to ease off there.
Yeah, but there's gaps starting to close a little.
So you got to make sure like the seal isn't tucking under, which
That's what's been happening.
that's what's been happening here. part of that seal tucked under on the side we weren't looking at. We're creating shock waves. We're not pushing it. I'm not forcing it with the hammer. We're just creating some shock waves so that the pressure of the strap can pull it.
Is that blood?
Yeah.
It's an MG.
It's closing up a little. Still closing?
Yeah. Down to about a quarter.
Yeah, we're almost there. Of course, this has got to go just under that level.
Well, we may have to move the ratchet out to here or get another.
But slowly, but surely getting there. I don't like this here. It's not sitting.
Yeah, it's kind of funky looking. Almost like it's not down in.
I don't like the way that looks. But slowly getting there. Yeah. Yeah, we're just letting the tension of this pull it together and just using this to give shock waves through it. I'm not trying to drive anything or make it move with the hammer.
Pull this down some
Yeah.
to get it to go under.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not quite there.
Right now, come down, we got to close that gap a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you see the hole too?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
You can't pry against a hole because that bracket floats. That bracket's kind of a floating bracket in there right now. Until these screws go in, we'll just,
Oh, those are not in yet?
No.
Okay.
I did this on Daryl's car. I think I did it in about 40 minutes. It was done. It was done.
Closer.
Close the gap.
Closing the gap up here.
That side.
Working on both sides.
Why don't you do it again?
Yeah, I should have lubricated it more.
I think, yeah.
Last time I did it, it went.
Yeah.
And last 2 times without lubrication. But these seals change.
Take it apart.
It might be slightly thicker. We're that close.
But you want that tower.
You're gonna bleed too.
I can't be the only one to leave blood on the windshield.
That's
You should have seen Todd when I was lining up his windows and windshield and everything on his midget. And trying to get everything to fit where it wasn't going against the corner window or the quarter window, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's going, oh my God. His eyes are like, ah!
I had to put a 6-foot 2x4 on the door on the MGA. Give it a twist in order to line it up right.
Well, I'm grabbing the corner of the windshield and going like this to get them to, and he's like, ah! Like, it worked, didn't it? Yeah. Like, hey,
Sometimes you gotta use a little brute force.
because you got to manhandle things a little bit. You just got to not cross that limit.
Right. You gotta.
Well, if it was Todd and it's a free car and if it cracks, whatever.
You'll buy another one.
So you got more money than I got,
That's right.
and you didn't pay anything for the car.
Yeah, we're about 1/8 of an inch.
Probably less than that now.
Yeah.
It's the thing is, every 16th gets harder. Every thud, he goes. Well, who breaks? It's not gonna sling glass over you.
What you think here, Rob?
Oh, it's so
I
close.
know.
It's pretty, now, how do you get, is that floater in there lined up or not?
Yeah, it moves.
It's probably better for us to see him fight it a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's reality. You know.
It is reality. That's why I say, if a glass company gives you a reasonable price, like $300-400, they've never done one before. They have no clue what they're getting
There
into.
you go. Who's paying for it when I break it?
Right.
That one's not quite. The long ones go out here. The outer three are long.
That one's not catching.
Not quite. Because you're going through two layers of aluminum into steel here,
Sometimes
so they're the longer screws. You're going through one layer of aluminum into steel, so it's the shorter screws.
put mine back together.
You see how much effort and pressure it takes, yet how careful you have to be to not break the glass.
What's the key right there?
That's the whole point. Start over again when you do that.